Welcome back to the Dopesick Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is my sidekick, Sasha. Spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but have been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about that dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened when I was actually in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison, you want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, Tyler was my good friend, and he's no longer with us. To my understanding, I talk about my mental health issues. It sounds like he might have had some of himself, and instead of talking to somebody, he just isn't with us anymore, and it's very sad. And that's a reason I talk openly about this. I hope showing that I'm able to live day to day as many issues as I have, and able to find a way to make it work that somebody else can realize. You can talk to somebody, you can get stuff going. A lot of times, some non-narcotic medications that are very much like just low background noise can make you balanced. All my meds I take at night, they linger throughout the day like a bad fart. A good fart, like your own fart. Everybody likes their own brand, you know what I'm saying? Don't say you don't. You smelled your own before, Ain't like those new age, you hipster people, that, like, I drive a hybrid. But, you kind of like your own brand every once in a while. That joke was from South Park. That wasn't my own, so, I have to give credit to that. But anyhow, Tyler, back when it started before this. See, when I was in the 7th grade, I started loan sharking. My dad loved mafia movies and stuff like that, and I wanted to make money. I was always trying to find a way to make money because I saw how much it, like he was business oriented, always chasing after it. Am I boring you? Shoot, got something in your eye. But anyway, and I saw how he admired these mafia guys, and I watched them in the movies, and I thought they were so tough and this and that. And I watched the ones that were smart, because I didn't really grow much until I hit the 9th grade. I was 4'11" in the 8th grade, didn't grow, and I grew like 7-8 inches in a year, and then between the 8th and 9th grade. Anyhow, I wanted to make some money, so I started loan sharking. They had we got a break in school. We got like a 20-30 minute break. There were vending machines. Kids didn't always have money, so I loaned some money, and I got this big old boy who would collect it. He was known he was going to come collect it if you didn't pay it. So that fear made people collect it, and he thought it was cool that people thought, he was a collector or something like that. But anyway, I get to high school, and I start selling stuff, because I didn't want to get messed with. When I was in the 7th grade, the 8th graders were terrible. They, in football, middle school football, we had this field house before games and stuff. A lot of times coaches just leave us back there for hours unattended while they were in the office. And one of the times, there were 3 guys that just tortured kids that they didn't like in my grade. I remember there was this pole in the corner next to the benches, and I grabbed my arm around it. They couldn't tilt me, but I grabbed it as hard as I could. I thought, if they do this to me, I'm coming back tomorrow. And, this is the type of stuff that causes, tragedies, the stuff that these guys were doing. They were holding people down, and I know this is awful. And they were sitting on their face. Yeah, one of them was like 6'8", 6'9". Sitting on their face. This would be national news today, okay? They did it to like 5 kids. And this was awful to watch. The one guy ended up telling his brother, thinking his brother's going to go beat him up. Well, his brother told his mom and dad. They called the school. This would be national news today. But see, I see this, how they were treating these kids, and I wasn't going to let it happen to me. The worst I ever got, was somebody saying something a little bit sideways, and I couldn't take that. I couldn't take that. I couldn't eat that. Couldn't accept that. So when I got, in the 9th grade, I really started pumping it up on selling stuff, so long before I ever used. My mom told me if you smoke weed, you'll wake up naked downtown, not knowing how you get there. You might have killed somebody you don't know. I smoked for the first time in my room with the door barricaded, with the windows had a cabinet in front of them because I thought I might jump out the window, and I had a tiny little pinch hitter, sprayed it up with cologne, the whole room. Took a tiny little pinch hit, and I felt different. I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to run naked through the streets or nothing. When I found out that was a lie, that's not what it did to you, I opened my mind to the rest of substances. Basically, my mom did everything she could. She did the right thing. She tried to deter me from it the best she could. She's had programs and everything else. She never even smoked weed, okay? Never. When she found mine, she thought it was some new super drug. She says, this ain't even weed. It looks like broccoli. What is this? Because she thought it looked like parsley. But anyhow, so there's this guy, in the school who's terrible. I talked about him. He was the first person I kidnapped. He was the person that came over when I had the piece. I put the piece on him. Said, when he said, "What's keep me from taking this away from you? Beating the crap out of you, taking it away from you." And I had my Run DMC size pants on that I looked foolish in. They were the only ones big enough to hold the piece. Put the piece out, put it to the stomach, said this, and I was shaking like a leaf, and everybody's like, "Oh, Mum Power's a bad dude," And it spread around, but at school I didn't have that, okay? I didn't have, that. And this dude was built like 190, looked like somebody had men's fitness when he was in the 10th grade. Yeah, one of them people, I don't know if it's the milk, the hormones, or what it is, or if he's on roids back then. He got on roids now, and he's still doing the same stuff. But anyway, this guy keeps coming back to him, this story does. So anyway, I played, varsity football. I was on the JV team, and I played football since I was in the 3rd grade, okay? Typically, I was a pulling guard. That was my thing. So I was too small to be a lineman, but, I was too big to be a running back or something. I had too much weight on me anyway, but I'd be a pulling guard, and I knocked the piss out of the tight end with this one play we had. They love running that. Both schools that I was at, pulling guard was the thing. And, basically you cut back, run behind the line, and you knock the piss out of the defensive end, give them a gap, and we'd average 15 yards a play on that. That was my one little thing. It wasn't anything special, but, I was good at, coming up behind and just plowing the guy. It worked most of the time, not always though. But anyhow, playing football, these kids were terrible. I'm telling you, it was known all throughout. The parents were worried about the kids going to school and everything else, which is why I started selling stuff. Should have started taking karate, boxing, something more mature. I'm not advocating this stuff. But anyway, the quarterback of the football team, always, we were pretty cool. He's still kind of a prick now. And, we were pretty cool. And he knew I was selling stuff. He asked me something about it. And I said, "You know what? Yeah, I am. And I got something for you. I got you an agreement here." I said, sometimes I need somebody to pick up some money for somebody. Sometimes, I have an issue. I said, outside of here, you done heard about what I did the one time, talking about pulling the thing on the purse. And I'm like, but in here, I can't do that. I said, if I have an issue, I'm going to give you a few bucks. I'm going to give you a few bucks, and, you handle it for me. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. I will definitely do that. How much you going to pay me?" I told him, "Shoot, man, I give you 50 bucks. Are you serious?" He was happy as could be. His name was Tyler. He's a quarterback. He went on to play college football. But anyhow, the same guy I talked about, that same guy had to pull the thing on the one time, the same guy kidnapped, the same guy keeps on repeating, said something to me. Now, I'm only like 5'6", 5'7". Now, at this point, I hadn't lost. So I was probably about 165, 170, and I was in pretty good shape in high school. Like at this point, when I was like about 14, I worked out a good bit. Between the 7th and 8th grade, I got really fit. I went from a butterball to fit, but I lost it when I started doing drugs. And, I wasn't anything crazy special, but I was reasonably fit. And he said something crazy. And, like I said, this kid's a giant for a 10th grader. I mean, he's bigger than most grown men, okay? He says something to me, something slick, something crazy slick, something, just something. It was at the end of it. And I went and told him, I said, "Listen, I'm giving this money, that. This guy," I said, he gets under my nerves, he gets under my skin, I can't handle this. And he says, "What do you say?" And I told him what he said. And, I said, "Listen, this isn't something, go, hey, I need to talk to you, I could do that myself, but, let him know after school, I want to come find you." I said, I need you to do something. I said, I'm going to slip you an extra 50 this week, give you 100, give it to him. And, and I need you to handle this." So anyway, I didn't see it. But apparently, he caught him in the locker room. A few other people see it. They cleared out. He snatched him up. And, this guy's actually probably bigger than he was. But, it's this dude with me. Tyler could be, when he wanted to be, could turn it on. And I ended up being his little buddy. I thought, I'm just paying the dude. It's just the business thing. But I ended up being like a little brother to this guy. And he couldn't stand this. He walked in there and, he said, "Hey," and he says that to the guy acting like he's smiling, reaches his hand out like he's going to do this. And then he takes both hands and he pops him against the lock so his head busts off. And he pops him, boom, boom, boom. And he says, "Mom, Power, my little buddy, so I don't want to hear anything coming from him about you doing some stuff again. What are you going to do? You want to pick on him? The little guy? Pick on me." He said, "Pick on me." And, so that was what it was. And, I was self-aware back then. You know what I mean? I was self-aware. So some people just go crash dummy and be going into fights they're going to lose. I play chess. I don't play checkers. So anyway, the guy comes up and he's like, "Did you tell Tyler, blah, 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 this, and that?" I said, "Tyler's my friend." Said, and we got a business, agreement. And so, what you said, that's unacceptable. Don't come at me at that. I can't believe you did that. I'm like, man, you've been causing me a lot of problems. I said, it's sporadic. It's every few months. You keep on doing this. I said, it needs to stop. And he had stolen something from my house. I know he stole it. And one of my other friends, I don't know 100%, but my sister's camera ended up going missing. And one of my other friends gets blamed on, but I'm like 99% sure it was him because this dude was a freaking klepto. Always stealing stuff. To this day, he's stealing stuff. His ex-girlfriend showed up at her house. He was in there for 10 seconds. Her mom was telling me about it. And then, she pushes him out the door, doesn't even let him get in. She looks, she's like, the iPad's missing. She ran out there, and then mom got that iPad off him. He's a big boy, too, now. But anyhow, even though he's doing steroids and stuff, too, whenever he is clean. But anyhow, Tyler, I figured it's just a business thing because in school can't have anything at equalizer like I normally have. So this is what it is. And, I figured that's where it would end. But, he calls me. And he said, hey, you want to go to this party? And I'm like, for real? I'm a undecided, like, 14-year-old ninth grader. What, you going to invite me to party? He's like, hey, man, come on, you have some fun. So he picks me up. It's him. It's this other loudmouth dude who's funny. Oh, my God. He looked like a troll, though. Name was Clayton. I think he ended up becoming a cop. But anyway, him and this other dude, Greg, and we go over. And what's wild is we're going over to people's house. He's going to go see girl and just visit, hang out, stuff like that. And what's cool is a lot of these girls have girls that, little sisters that are in my grade. So it gives me a chance to talk to them, and it looks cool. I'm hanging out with them. And it looked a little odd, because like I'm hanging out with these guys. They're giant jacked. And here's this little chubby kid, I'll put a picture up. I look, like a child, but I had a lot going on at that time. And people on here will end up telling you about that. But he was a friend for doing that. He was a friend, made sure, whenever they were going out, he made sure to include me. That was cool of him. And, I figured it was just a paid agreement. I have an issue. You go handle something. But it ended up, and I was slow to realize, this dude, he's become a friend. He's like a big brother type deal. He's looking out, And, yeah. And it was really cool because, kind of a loner, in selling stuff. I had so many people that, act like they were friends. But I always felt like I was alone inside of a room full of people. So anyway, there were other times, there was another time with this fool, okay? There was 2 different times where something like this happened. I had this moped. It's called a Honda Ruckus. You could drive it when you're under 16. It's 49cc. If it's under 50 cc's, you can drive it. And you can have it without a tag in Roanoke County. The city, you got to have that tag. You're going to pull you over, which I got stories about that. But anyhow, the one time I kept driving by and this guy, whose dad was a DEA agent. Oh, my God. I could smack myself for this. There was one time with him, but it's not that guy. There's a separate person. And every time I drove by, this guy's like, built like a grown man. He's like, and he'd mess with me and say some stuff and everything else, whenever I drive by on this moped. It burnt me up. It burnt me up when people would say stuff and stuff like that, and I couldn't take it. It burnt me up. I had to do something about it because that means I'm a punk if I'm just allowing this stuff to happen. But see, I'm undersized. I'm self-aware. I don't know that, I didn't know nothing about fighting back then. Now, if it's somebody, closer to my size, whatever. But I mean, if it's somebody that's built like a grown man, it's like a 17 or 18-year-old when I was 14. Now, this is all when I was 14, okay? When I was about 15, that 16, that's when I started, getting out there and handling it, putting in work just because, it was time. It's time people see, I can do something too. Other people handle certain stuff for me, but you got to show people you can do stuff every once in a while. But this time, I was undersized. I mean, for real, I was undersized. So this guy keeps saying stuff, and, he says, all right. He says, and I told him the same thing that we did at the other spot with the DEA guy, son. I tell him, listen, I'm going to go say something to him. I said, you be down the way. I said, when I drive by, I'm going to say something to him. I'm going to drive past. I'm going to say something so bad. I'm going to tell him, F your mother, after enter A, something like that. And then you're going to follow me down here. Then you're going to jump out, and that's what's going to happen, And I said it, and, I said, and I done like a drive-by, to see where everybody's at. And he had 2 of his buddies over. But Tyler ended up bringing 3 of his buddies. And I mean, for real, Tyler and one of his buddies, they'd have smashed these people. I mean, seriously, this guy was like my big brother. Got a lot of respect for him. He was a good guy, went to college, did good things, but I mean, he looked out, okay? And I said something crazy. This guy, something about his mom, something this, and that, and mother. And then I drove past. I took a right to a dead end where there's a cul-de-sac. Now, if something had gone wrong, this Honda Ruckus, I had driven it off road. I could drive it down this hill. They couldn't have caught me then. So I'm ready for that. Lord have mercy. I must be boring her today. So I drive to this cul-de-sac and they jump out and they circle me and I'm thinking, man, he better show up, my God, because I got my foot down the ground. I don't know if I should park. Sure enough, skirt, drives in. They jump out of the car and they just light into him. I'm even trying to jump in and get some kicks and punches in, but I mean, I'm undersized. I'm not doing anything. So yeah, this was a little bit, I was undersized and paying somebody to do my work. So this is before, I came into myself. Like bigger, confident, everything else. Having the muscle with certain stuff allows you to do things. Same in prison. It allows you to do things, and it's the reputation. See, the reputation where I rarely ever got robbed was because of a few little things that happened that weren't even all that crazy. But they caused a reputation that circled around. He might not be somebody you want to mess with. But even then, after a certain level I got to, like when I was about 18 or 19, every week somebody new I'd never met in my life was supposed to rob me. I'm serious. Every week somebody's supposed to rob me. It never happened, but I mean, it kept me on edge. But anyhow, this guy's saying some stuff and, everything else. And, he's saying a little something too. So they came up, smashed him. We got out of there, Had to make sure that they followed me because I'm driving a freaking moped. I can't do a dramatic exit on a moped. So, had to make sure he followed me back to the house. Made sure I get back there all right because they would have run me over probably on the way back. But anyway, this guy was a friend of mine. He was a great friend. And there are a good number of stories I've got about this guy where he, had my back. And it about tears me up because, he was a good friend of mine, and to think that, somebody that was doing that good, I mean, just a star person, quarterback, and all that stuff, and, just something came up talking about it today, and, with somebody, and to think that, it sounds like he ended up in a place where, he's having issues, and, he ain't with us anymore, and I mean, it just really sucks, because, like, I really have a lot of respect for him, and it sucks that he's gone, I know, if the family ends up seeing this isn't the most opportune stuff in the world, to be talking about. He wasn't really, involved in, drugs or nothing like that. I mean, it's weed that I was selling back then. But what I'm trying to say was, I had issues. Felt like nobody had my back, nothing like that. And this guy was, like, a big brother to me. And, he ended up being one of my best friends. I mean, he did. And I'm self-aware enough to know when people are your friends and when they're not your friends. And at first I figured, I'm slipping him extra $50 a week to look out for me. He's not really my friend, but he made sure everywhere, every party, every time they went to, go run around, go visit girls' house, stuff like that he was picking me up. I mean, he had to do that. I mean, the young kid, I'm not cool and all that stuff, but he did that, and it's something I'll always remember. And it sucks. It absolutely sucks because, he's a good dude, he's a good person, and maybe he, could see, something like that. And, he looked out for me in that. So, it's a little bit off the typical path, we're talking today. This is part of how it came about. But me having that, mostly in the school, it allowed me, the confidence and everything else. Of course, it did allow furtherance of the crazy stuff that I was doing. But, man, a guy was like a brother to me and like a big brother. He always looked out, this, that, gave me advice. And, talking about him today, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks so bad to hear, somebody lost. Like, I'm so numb to people dying, because people die from drugs. And I'm like, well, what'd you expect would happen? But, he wasn't involved in none of that. Nothing like that, And I believe he was 27, 28 when he passed. But he was a very good friend to me. And I will miss him a lot. I hadn't talked to him in years whenever all this happened. But, man, won't forget. During the time, growing up, it's a weird time. You're trying to navigate, and you don't know what's what. You're trying to figure out who you are, and you're clueless, and you think when you get older you'll figure it out, and then one day you realize you're never going to figure it out. Anybody who acts like they do or is pretending that you're just playing as you go along. You're playing it as you go along, and you're trying to figure stuff out. But during that time, this guy was a solid friend. He was a brother to me. So figured I'd tell a little story about him. I miss Tyler. He was my buddy. He's a good friend to me, and that's about it. So, if you like the video, press the like button. If not, it's 20 minutes and 16 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. But I really do hope you did, because, and just wanted to say something nice about my friend, and you won't see me get a whole lot upset over people passing. I know it's cold, it's numb, it's probably because I'm got mental health issues, I'm autistic, and I'm just weird. But like the people that were close to me, like you'll see a different, you'll hear different when I speak about it. So that's it. I hope you liked it.